Welcome back to Patch in the Prairie. We are fully in winter mode on the farm. Things have slowed down quite a bit, and I would make a video about some lessons I've learned as a first-generation farmer. As a first-generation farmer, I did go to college and I got an animal science degree, and then I've spent 10 years managing farms for other people, so I got a lot of experience that way. But then it's only been in the last 6 years or so that I have had my own operation and had my own skin in the game, and so I thought I would talk a little bit about some of the things that I've learned doing that. So the first thing I learned is it's important to know where you're sourcing your animals from. And so one thing that happened 2 years ago is I had a really high demand for eggs. And so I didn't have enough hens to meet the current demand that I had. And so I bought in a group of older spent hens, and I suspect they came out of a commercial barn, even though I didn't show up to a commercial farm to pick them up. I isolated them for a while. They were in the middle of molting, and they also seemed to have a little bit of a cold or some sort of respiratory problem. And so we isolated them until everything cleared up. Mixed them back in with my current flock that I had at the time, and everything went fine for about 3 months. And then we got a really cold spell. It's enough stress to the chickens to where it caused a flare-up in something that I suspect was infectious bronchitis. And the way I learned that was that the eggshells that the hens were laying were very wrinkly, and as I was researching it, I was able to confirm that that's what it was. And so I battled different flare-ups of that virus basically for the next year as I tried to get rid of it. It caused me a lot more headaches than if I had just told customers that I didn't have eggs for them. So what I learned is either be very careful of where you source animals from, or just retain and raise your own replacements so that they are going to be used to the bugs that are on your farm and you can keep your animals healthy. This is something that I'm learning right now, is make sure you have animals that fit your context. And so I've mentioned in previous videos we started raising sheep in California, and then we moved to South Dakota, and we're still raising sheep. But one of the big differences is the type of pastures that we have. In California, we were using an old walnut orchard that had been out of production and had been very overgrown by what most people would consider weeds, but that also makes extremely good sheep food. And so we raised beautiful lambs, grass-fed lambs. We didn't have to supplement hardly at all. We were able to irrigate. So when we came to South Dakota, I had that same mindset in mind. And my pastures on the farm we purchased have virtually no weeds, no broadleaves, anything like that. It's just basically grass. And while we can grow a lot of grass, what I've been finding is that we may have the wrong type of pasture for sheep. And so I have made a genetics change to see if that's going to fix some of our problems in terms of just lambs not growing very well. Here this year, if that doesn't change, then I probably have to make the hard decision that we have the wrong species for the pasture that we have. And if that's the case, then we will probably pivot to just grazing cattle and other people's cattle in the summer, and potentially selling our sheep. The lesson I learned was you don't want to overstock your pastures. I know this seems like a pretty obvious thing, but I still had to learn this lesson. Our first year in South Dakota, we had another farmer that needed to graze a few pairs of cows. He was looking for some grass, and so we brought those on. Everything went very, very well. We had a wet year, lots of grass. And so the next year it was dry, and in my gut I knew I shouldn't bring the cows back, but I really wanted to maintain that relationship with him. And also the money from grazing the pastures is nice, as we're trying to bootstrap this farm and not take out any loans. And so I brought the cows. We kept them for just a very short period of time before I had to send them home earlier than we had done the year before, and that was mainly because of just no rain and not enough grass. And so thankfully the year after that we had a very wet year, and the pastures were able to recover, but we did overgraze, and I don't want to make that mistake again. So sometimes you have to make decisions based off of what's best for the land. Sometimes there's the relationship dynamics or financial dynamics as well. And so I'm gonna try to make decisions that are better for the land, because in the long term, those will also be better for financial returns, as well as good relationships with other farmers. Another thing is to get creative with your problem solving and try to bootstrap and cheaply come up with solutions. I know it's easy to get into the trap that you have to buy all this equipment to farm and you have to have everything looking perfect. So a couple of examples that I've come up with is I wanted to unroll hay, and so I really wanted to unroll hay, but I didn't want to buy a bale unroller. And so what I did is I came up with a way to use our four-wheeler to transport bales to where I wanted to unroll the hay, and then I was able to unroll the hay with the four-wheeler and put the nutrients from that out on the land. And so instead of spending a couple $1,000s on a bale unroller for a four-wheeler, I was able to use just a breaker bar and some tow straps that I had lying around, and I was able to find a solution that didn't cost me anything. And then another example of this is we had this cart that was left behind by the previous owners, and they had a mobile barbecue on it. I guess they must have done some barbecue competitions or something like that. And so what I did is I removed that barbecue, and I still used the frame of the cart that was there, and I made a mobile water cart out of some different things that I was able to get for free. So that was another example of solving a problem without having it cost hardly any money, other than maybe I think I had to spend $15 on a couple of different valves, and then I had to cut up a old used calf nipple to make a rubber gasket. And then the last thing that kind of ties back into the context discussion I had earlier is always work towards having more diversity. So whether that's diversity of your enterprises that you can stack on your farm, whether that's diversity of animal species on the farm, or diversity of plant species. The more you're able to have diversity, the more resilience you have, whether that's market resilience in prices, drought resilience, even disease resilience. Some of the species are dead-end hosts for each other. So like cattle and sheep are dead-end hosts for parasites. So if you can combine them in the same pasture, that can help break up your parasite cycle. So again, diversity makes you more resilient towards whatever you might come across throughout any given year. All right, everybody, thanks for watching. Let me know if you learned anything in the comments, and hope to see you in the next video.